Hello, everyone. I'm John from Jane Travels, and welcome to our brand new first time edition of Jane Travels Live Sports Edition. Nancy will not be joining me on Sport Editions. I have a co host who knows a little bit more about sports. So, just want to tell everyone that I guess I want to answer the first question: what sports and travel have to do with, and why I did sports. It's right now with the sports industry, the travel industry going nowhere, and sports is made up of lots of travel between watching the game or participating in the game. I thought it would be a kind of a good tangent to go off for a little while until traveling comes back, and that's what I'm going with for my explanation. So today's live, and each live will be divided into quarters, periods, innings, whatever, depending on the number of subjects we have. So today's will be divided into three periods. First period is the intro that you're hearing now, plus current sports shorts that we just picked out of the news today. Second period is a discussion on the question, is Tom Brady the GOAT or is he overrated? And our third period is discussion on the question, will the LA Lakers repeat in the NBA? And if not, who's going to challenge him for the title? So I'd like to bring up my co-host, and he qualifies actually more than I do for sports here. Brandon is a six-time New Hampshire state champion in basketball. He's has one championship as an assistant coach. He has four as a player, starting player for the team. And he also last year took over a team after 3 games, a high school varsity team, and made it go undefeated to win a state championship. So, Brandon, I'm going to bring you up. Welcome in, Brandon.
Hey, John. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
How you doing today?
I'm excellent. How are you?
Very good, very good. So before we go into the quick news shorts, I'll throw a quick hello to people in the chat. Thank you for joining us. I don't know who out there is follows the sports, but our first one in the house was Lady Coach Explores. Welcome in. Then my friend Hani from the Beach Life. Gabby, both Gabby and Hani are moderators on this channel. Welcome in, Gabby. T&K Travels. Sarah or Bob from Hughes Cruises. And let's see. Okay. And that is people in the house, right? Let's see, going down. Okay. So that's people in the house right now. So, Brandon, I guess we'll start. We seem to have, looking at the clock in this period, we have about 17 minutes left. So why don't you start us off with the sports shorts in the news today?
Sure. John, as you know, I'm a big avid golfer. It was nice to see that we have numerous golfers today honoring Tiger Woods, wearing the red polo and the black Nike pants. Tiger's kind of known Sunday look. And so Tony Finau, Patrick Reed, a few others as well, too, honoring him with that look after his rollover earlier this week. And he seems like he's in pretty good spirits since then. And so that's nice to see for sure. And hopefully, he has a speedy recovery. I did see at the Puerto Rico championship, the entire grounds crew actually wore the Tiger Sunday outfit, so the red polo and black pants as well. So that was awesome to see. And then last night, you had undefeated Baylor, who happened to lose to Kansas, actually, in what some would have thought maybe would be a close game, but 71-58. So that was kind of a shocker. And Baylor is definitely one of my favorites to potentially win the national championship. So that was kind of surprising as well.
Yeah, I read some things that they actually thought maybe that was a helping hand getting that loss. Like any team, trying to keep a season undefeated is a big task.
Yeah, I agree. And I saw that they're having some COVID issues a little bit as well, too. So they missed a few practices as well, too. So, that potentially played a role in that as well, too. But I mean, as a coach, I agree. Sometimes it's, you learn a lot more from a loss than a win. So, that could be a blessing in disguise for him.
And you never know this year when someone gets upset or someone loses, if it has to do with the dreaded virus going on out there or not.
Right. No
with
doubt.
with the games being canceled. Welcome in Blaine from Rally's Travel, and also Najuma Brown, one of the great supporters of all channels. Okay, going on to football, some football hints. Well, it's a big year of the quarterback, isn't it? So you got Wilson now, who's kind of let it out that he wants to go to either the Cowboys, the Raiders, or the Saints. I don't know. I guess the Saints are trying to welcome him with open arms, from what I understand.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be almost stupid not to, right? I feel like almost every team should probably, open him with welcome arms for sure.
That's right. Then there's Mr. Watson from Houston, and it looks like the leading candidate for him right now is the New York Jets, which I hate to see in the East, being a Patriots fan, but they supposedly have the best package, from what I understand. They got a couple of first rounds this year, a couple of first rounds next year. I don't know if they would throw their quarterback in on that deal. I haven't heard that much at all, but they at least have the draft picks to get the job done. And he wants to go to New York for some reason. He likes their new coach. So,
yeah, I've heard Darnold kind of thrown in there a little bit, but definitely have plenty of draft capital for sure. And then it'll be interesting to see how that kind of shakes down, because the Texans owner and GM have come out and said that they have no real intention of trading him, and so that'll be interesting to see who kind of wins that standoff. And normally it's the player who ends up winning that standoff, but
it is nowadays, isn't it?
Yeah.
Welcome in, Daddy Days. Thanks for joining us. And another interesting one. I thought this guy was over the hill, or he'd get some kind of a minimum package. J.J. Watt, very interesting. He has been, actually, for 3 teams have offered him between $13 and $15 million. Kind of blew me away.
Yeah, that was surprising to me as well, especially with somebody who seems to find himself, on the IR quite a bit later on in his career. As you know, I'm a Steelers fan, and so having both of his brothers kind of on the team already, you hope maybe you can get a kind of a discount for him, and potentially it'd be nice to see him in black and yellow.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting dynamic, wouldn't it?
That sure would be.
Let's see. T&K just threw out Saints have $70 million in cap and deserve to suffer for a good while. Yeah, that's the thing. You wonder with contracts, you see what these players want to go, but trade's going to be there for the team, and there's also going to be salary cap numbers.
Absolutely. It's interesting with the Saints as well, too, because, last year, obviously, they gave Taysom Hill a contract extension. It sounded like that was kind of Sean Payton's guy. And now it doesn't really seem like that's quite where they want to go in the future. And it was a smaller extension, but that also is pretty interesting. And obviously Jameis Winston's kind of looming around still.
Yeah, you're right. T&K Travel says, with the cap dropping by $25 million, I see JJ taking a small deal for a ring chase. Yeah, I can see that happening too.
Yeah. Yep, me too.
Which puts Pittsburgh right at the top of that list, like you're saying.
We would open him with large arms for sure.
That's right. The last football one, I thought this was kind of humorous. Our buddy Josh Gordon is coming out of his semi-retirement to play with your friend Johnny Manziel. Did you hear about this?
I did just see that. Was it last night or this morning? And that league is interesting, where it's completely, fan run. So the fans call out plays or vote in plays or something. I don't even really understand the dynamics behind it, but.
Yeah, that's something I want to read up on, because I couldn't really follow it either. They call it a fan league. I didn't realize the fans were actually picking the plays, though. Yeah,
it's like the fans are essentially like coaching, I believe.
So it's almost like a pickup game.
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
I wonder, are they getting paid? You know anything about the salaries?
You know what? I don't. I'd be curious to know about that. And while we're talking about those two, how about let's talk about 2 careers that could have been potentially outstanding and went absolutely nowhere. So at least Josh Gordon, Johnny Manziel was obviously a college football kind of gamer, and no one really, I didn't really think it would translate to the NFL. some scouts and coaches obviously did, but Josh Gordon is, mind blowing to me.
Now, did Manziel go in was it the first round or the second round that he went?
No, it was first round. It was early too. I think like top 10.
Yeah, I remember when that pick was made. Oh, I just noticed my my green on my hat is getting blurred out here. Switch something with a different color. Okay. Yeah. So Manziel's been bounced around too. Didn't he play for the Canadian League a little while too?
Yeah, he did. He had a little stint there for sure. And I believe he got into it with one of the coaches, which doesn't surprise me either.
No. And Josh Gordon, I really thought he was going to come around. He's been given, I think, 5 chances now. And did Seattle outright release him, or how? I didn't realize that he was off their roster.
Yeah, I saw that he was suspended again, and my guess would be yes, they probably did just release him.
Yeah, he's saying TNK is saying Manziel was a 21st pick in the first round. Okay, boy, was that a bomb.
Oof.
And let's see. So those are my football, and if you want to take it from there.
Yeah. So I did just see that the Rockies have approved to have I believe was it 12,500 fans for home games, and I did see that they were talking about that would be a big boost to the economy, to bars and restaurants actually around the stadium, because apparently that area really relies on baseball fans, especially obviously during baseball season. So, I think that's a good thing. I saw it was 25% capacity, I believe. And so, as long as they're doing that safely and, everybody's, respecting whatever rules they have in place. I was trying to dig around and see what kind of rules they had in place, and nothing. I didn't really come up with anything or see anything. So I would be curious to know what was in place for rules and regulations there.
I think the rules and regulations are still a work in progress. But I looked just the opposite way, and I thought it was kind of a joke, just letting a few thousand people in. But the more I thought about it, you're absolutely right. I mean, you bring people into the city. If people just surround it that aren't in the game, can't get in the game, and they're supporting the economy in there. So it's huge. I mean, a few thousand people in the stadium brings, parking, payment and parking, restaurants, bars, souvenir places. It just livens it up again.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. Right. And I think, it's kind of nice where it's, when are we going to kind of turn this corner, on COVID? And it seems kind of like we're kind of starting to get there, and numbers seem like they're kind of decreasing a little bit. And so, hearing that as a sports fan is nice, where hopefully we'll be able to see kind of, maybe more and more fans start being allowed in stadiums, obviously, as long as everybody's safe and respectful for, whatever rules and regulations are in place.
Right. Blaine says it's amazing how many players do well in college and then they're drafted high and sink in the NFL. And Hani quotes, probably the most infamous of all of them is Ryan Leaf.
Yeah. Man, talk about a big time bust, and in somebody who, then struggled with his life during NFL and afterwards as well too. So I did see a documentary on him that he seems like he's got things kind of turned around, which is obviously good.
Yeah, in his life, you're talking, obviously.
Yeah.
Now, he wasn't drafted number 1, was he? You remember?
Oh man, he and Peyton Manning were the two quarterbacks. Did he might have went before Peyton Manning? I honestly,
I thought Manny went number 1, but I'm sure someone in the chat could throw those numbers out for us.
Yeah, I'd be curious. I know they were back and forth, and Peyton going number 1 would make sense.
Blaine says a lot of its guys just being system players or have insane supporting cast around them. It's like anyone that comes from Alabama. Their value is going to be so much higher, and you have to wait to see what they do.
And I'm always amazed with the amount of Alabama players that really kind of pan out too. Most of their defenders always seem to be pretty stellar, and never really kind of a bust. Their quarterbacks are always kind of hit or miss. But the running backs, are always pretty solid as well too.
Right. Welcome in, Van Life Voyages. Thank you for joining us. Okay, we have an update. So Manning did go number 1 and Leaf did go number 2, according to T and K. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Honey says you went after Peyton Manning. Okay, so that's an interesting one. All right, you got a couple more news stories, Sam?
Yeah. So just happened to see that the Raptors are struggling with kind of the virus here. We are thinking we maybe are turning the corner, but struggling. I saw a few coaches were out, and then a lack of amount of players that could play. So the game got canceled, and now it sounds like there is a good chance that they won't be playing until after the All-Star game. Did you happen to see that?
Yeah, I guess the minimum, which I didn't realize it was 8, but it's 8. If you can't put 8 guys on that bench, you can't play. Which didn't they expand the rosters at the beginning of this year to like 15 or something or more, just to cover a lot of the virus stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's so that if you can't put 8, that's pretty bad. I mean, you can't see how the rest of the team's not going to get you if half the team's got it already.
Right, and I wish they would fully come out with their COVID protocol rules, because there was that game earlier this season where Kevin Durant was playing, and then they pulled him off the court, and he didn't test positive at all. It was because of contact tracing and whatnot. So I'd be curious to know if there are any positive tests, if it's all just contact tracing and whatnot. So I must say, God bless whoever is doing the contact tracing and all of that, because that could get pretty ugly pretty quick on that.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing, I think we probably can agree that a lot of it's made up as they go along too. Like, notice how there wasn't anyone of importance that was listed out of the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah,
I'm sure there were people that were, positive.
Yeah, that was it. That was, that was interesting. And then there was that story that the Kansas City Chiefs barber that they brought in, tested positive, but he was an outsider that they had brought in, which just seemed pretty careless to me, with the Super Bowl a couple of days away. So that was interesting.
Right. Very suspicious. You got one last news item? Or?
Yeah. So it's surprising to me, and I'm sure surprising to a lot of people. We have the Utah Jazz that are, holding on to the best record in the NBA, and kind of they dominated the Lakers, who I know we're going to talk about a little later. A couple nights ago, and so how far will they go? Will they continue this, or is this kind of just one of those regular season kind of Toronto Raptors of a few years ago type of deal, and then they kind of just phase out in the playoffs, or are they a real contender?
Yeah, that would be interesting. Like you said, we'll touch on that when we get to our our third period of the day by the second question. Okay, so if there are no other comments, we'll move on to our question number 1. Let's see. Hold on. Just for effect purposes only, Brandon. Okay. And our first question of the day is Tom Brady the GOAT? Or is he overrated? I guess I'll start since I threw this thing out here. My answer will surprise you. You have any idea what my feeling is, Brandon?
Well, so when we were kind of discussing about some topics here, I thought you might go one way. I would have bet money that you would have said overrated, but with just your reaction there, I'm gonna flip it around. I'm gonna say that you are going to potentially finally admit that maybe he is the GOAT.
Okay. Well, my answer to this, surprisingly, is yes to both of them. I think there is no question that Brady is the GOAT, and I would love to get in an argument with anyone who would do the other side. Now, most people don't believe me. I tried to sell Brandon this for a couple of years. I watched every down Brady played for the Patriots. When I was working or doing something else, I recorded the game. So I've seen every down that he has done in a Patriots uniform. And he by far has every single intangible that you could have in a quarterback. He knows what to do. He's got the brains. I'll never forget the first, I think it was a Super Bowl, actually, when he played the Rams. And just the way he thought his way through plays and stuff like that. I mean, he's got an incredible work ethic, or he did anyways. I think he became a prima donna in his latter years with the Patriots. But he's broken almost every conceivable record. You can't take anything away from his 10 Super Bowl appearances. And that's why I don't think, people want to throw Montana out there. Some people want to throw Manning out there. But I don't think they come close to Brady's accomplishments. Now, that being said, I do think he is overrated as a quarterback. I think the reason he becomes a GOAT is because all the stuff he puts into the team. He makes people better. The way he thinks through a game, processes a game. He's got tremendous skills. But you look at it, he doesn't have, like I said, I watched him in New England. He doesn't have the strongest arm. He has a nice, accurate short throw, but not one all the way downfield. Obviously, he's not a runner. He's in the pocket guy. But one of the things that always impressed me most about Brady was his quick release. And I don't know if there's anyone in the history of the NFL, quarterback-wise, that's had a quicker release. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to agree with a lot of that, actually. I definitely agree with the release part. It always amazed me with the fact that he could get away with kind of dumping it down more than you would think, and one of his biggest strengths, or normally the biggest strength, would be the backs catching it out of the backfield, or Edelman getting it to Edelman quickly. And so with the release, for sure. And again, that always shocked me. My thoughts on the GOAT is I don't even think there's an argument anymore. And I wish there, was an argument. I wish I could make an argument. However, I don't, how can you argue against a player that's got more Super Bowls than any other franchise? And being in 10 Super Bowls and winning seven of them, and I believe 5 Super Bowl MVPs. I don't see how you can really argue that. I guess the only maybe player that you could put in there for me would be Jerry Rice, if we're talking about GOAT overall. And we're not just doing the GOAT. If it's a GOAT quarterback, I don't think it's close. I would say Jerry Rice is probably the second best player to play in the NFL. But I still don't even think that's close. And the reason I'd put Jerry Rice up there is just because of his intangibles, and the numbers all back it up as well too. And if he played in today's era, I mean, I think he would be twice as good, to be honest, with how they kind of benefit, the offense, and it's a more passing. It's more of a passing league. But yeah, I can't even really come up with a true argument to the GOAT question. I think it's a no-brainer, honestly.
Well, we got a couple like T and K says 7 rings and 2 teams GOAT. I agree with that. The only thing I say that Tampa Bay, and this is where it frustrates me with the media and this sports people. They hand all the credit to Brady for some of these Super Bowl victories, and I look back at a lot of the Super Bowl stuff, and he had some solid teams. Now that Tampa Bay team was loaded. That was one of the best defenses, especially playing in the playoffs, that you're going to face. I think he passed for about 200 yards. That's not a huge amount. That's a steady quarterback. But so and let's see. Blaine here says Brady might be considered the GOAT by many, but remember, it takes the team around him to make a QB good. And that goes to your thing with Rice. A lot of people point to Montana, but Montana had Rice. And Manning had. What was it, Wayne? And who was the other receiver on the other side?
Yeah, Reggie Wayne and Marvin Harrison.
Harrison, right.
Yeah.
So, and I think Brady probably in New England had to deal, he had some decent receivers for a while, but he had to deal with uh, a lot more average receivers than I think a lot of the other quarterbacks, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I was just kind of just trying to think of, playing devil's advocate of how I play devil's advocate about, kind of why he wouldn't be the GOAT. And you are 100% right about the fact that, I mean, he's had some really great teams, especially last year's team. And I mean, you want to talk about a wide receiving crew. I mean, that Tampa Bay wide receiving crew is, absolutely incredible. And not to mention that they had two solid backs with Fournette and Ronald Jones, and that defense you were talking about. It's interesting to me because early on in the Patriot days, he was kind of more of a game manager, and let that defense go to work. And the defense, you mentioned the first Super Bowl against the Rams, they really shut that greatest show on turf down. And that was, arguably one of the best offenses the NFL has seen. And so he kind of just had to really, manage it and make sure that he didn't make any mistakes. I think, despite what people are saying now, having Belichick as a coach for all those years, I think that was only benefited him. Benefited obviously the entire team, but you could maybe say that, yeah, he's spent most of his career, with one of the best coaches in the NFL. Although, just winning with Bruce Arians, that kind of, throws that argument out the window for sure. I see a lot of comments are talking about really, there's no I in team and everything. And I agree with that. It's just interesting how, you move him to a team that was 7-9 last year, and all of a sudden they just believe, and I think just his aura just rubs off on everybody.
And I don't think a lot of people appreciate that as much, behind the scenes. I mean, he got people motivated just in the practices. I mean, remember when they were not allowed to practice and they're out there when the virus was at its highest, and they're practicing. I think it was a local college or high school.
Yeah. And I think the NFL put a stop to that too, because I think they were breaking potentially a few rules or whatnot. But yeah, he's just somebody that just is a winner and wants to win. And, as a coach, you have to respect that. He just lays it out there, and he's passionate and fiery. I think that goes a long ways. And, kind of, we talked about that Bucs team, and that the Bucs team really didn't change much from the previous year, but, you get a leader in there like Brady, that changes it all compared to somebody who, Jameis Winston, maybe not trying to knock him at all, but he's not the leader that Tom Brady is.
No, and they did he had a solid team around him. T&K Travels, first of all, welcome in Monarch Moments. Thank you for joining us. T&K Travels, the reason why Brady is a GOAT is because he elevates the talent around him. He took a team that was 7-9 in the first year with them with no offseason training and wins it all. I know there has to be a lot said about that. I did some off the grid research over the last couple of days too, and it's very interesting. The NFL considers that a quarterback rating of 88.6 is basically average, a little above average. So if you can excel that, you're considered on the top echelon of quarterbacks. And out of Brady's, we're going to go of the years he started. Okay, remember he came in 2000 and only had played one game, and then in 2008 he only played one game because of injury. So the other 19 years, 15 of those years he was above that ranking of 88.6. So 15 out of 19. That's a real good rating. And I won't go down the list, but out of all those years, 19 years, I think there was 2 years he had 6 losses. 1 year he had 7, and all the rest were less than that. So incredible numbers.
Yeah, those are incredible. You really kind of sit back and think about it. That's phenomenal for sure. And back to elevating the talent, I was just kind of thinking about wide receivers or tight ends or even running backs that, that had left New England and who have had a better career after leaving New England, and it just doesn't really happen.
No, and there again, I will fall back on Winston. You know, when you get a quarterback with those kind of atrocious interception numbers, I keep telling people there's only two people that couldn't have won the Super Bowl this year for Tampa Bay, and one was Winston, and the other was my Patriots quarterback this year. So those are the only two I think that a team would have won a significant amount of games. And it was a solid team, but you can't take it away from Brady. Like was it T&K had said a little earlier? You know, you take a guy that was put on the team, very little practice, very little camp. You know, I think everything was done by Zoom this year for the most part. And to be able to gel with that team and make that team so unified was great.
Yeah, that is incredible, honestly. I see that TK said that Todd Bowles should have won the Super Bowl MVP. I completely agree with that. That defense was outstanding in the Super Bowl and just constantly pressured Patrick Mahomes the entire game and kind of had the formula to not even slow that Chiefs offense down, to completely just shut it down. So I think Todd Bowles needs some love for sure.
I don't think enough people give that defense credit. When you can shut down Mahomes like that, not without getting a touchdown, that's absolutely incredible. I know he had some linemen that were banged up, and wasn't a key offensive lineman out for the game.
Yeah, they had two former starting offensive linemen that were out for the game.
Yeah. Yeah, Monarch Moments says, John, you're right. No quarterback who wins the Super Bowl by himself. It's a team. The quarterback is very important. But the Ravens won the Super Bowl with Trent Dilfer. That's the example people bring up a lot. There was also, you could even look at Foles, right? Foles was not really an established quarterback, but just had a great couple of years. Did he have a couple of years run with Philly because of injury?
Yeah, that was always interesting. You know, Carson Wentz would always get kind of beat up or banged up, and then Foles would kind of step on in, and it happened a few years, and then there was always that quarterback controversy with should it be Foles, should it be Wentz, and Foles had won a Super Bowl and looked good doing it, but there's games when he just looked atrocious, and then Wentz kind of looked like he was the guy, and now just completely just has fallen off the cliff.
Boy, did that backfire, huh?
Ooh, that's a bad contract right now. Yeah, although they just unloaded it, but
yeah, you're right.
Let's go. I'm curious to know what your thoughts on. So back to Brady. I'm kind of very impressed with. I think he's ahead of his time with his nutrition and the kind of the TB12 type of stuff with pliability and flexibility and all of the nutrition. What are your thoughts on that, John? Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I lean more towards the thing that is kind of a big, what's a nice word, farce a little bit. I don't really believe. I mean, he's someone who takes care of himself and has the right lifestyle and probably the right body type. If you put that thing on the average Joe, I don't know if you'd see anywhere near the success that he has had. How about you?
I believe in it now. Some of the TB12 stuff I think is just kind of a moneymaker, but I do believe in the pliability and the flexibility aspect, as well as the proper nutrition and helping with your body's recovery time, and it seems it's working for him. So I think he is ahead of his time, for sure, with that kind of that type of stuff. And I think more and more athletes are kind of moving towards that. But Brady was kind of the first one to kind of really advertise it and make money off of it now.
Yeah, you're right. He's making a bunch of money. And after the Super Bowl, I'm sure he's going to make a bunch more. Some of the people in chat have made, let's see some of their comments here. T&K said, true, but only one was a true starter. That offense pretty much minus Gronk was the same group they had last year and was light and dark compared to last season. Yeah. Well, you got to throw in too. I don't know how much you really added to it, but Brown was added on. Was it halfway through the season he was added on to that squad?
Yeah, it was right around halfway. Yeah, the halfway point.
And even though his stats don't show up, if you put three top receivers out there like that, Brown's acting kind of as a decoy, no matter what kind of shape he's in or what he's doing. So now you got three guys. Plus, they had three good tight ends.
Oh yeah, I mean that offense was loaded, and in that offensive line they improved through free agency as well as a draft as well too. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't talk about either. That offensive line was kind of suspect the year before with Jameis, and they did a good job of shoring that up. I mean, they traded up in the first round to get Brady a top notch offensive lineman who was pretty solid.
Right. Now, this is interesting. I don't even remember this. Hani says the Chargers went on to the one and only Super Bowl with Stan Humphries at quarterback. I don't remember him being a Super Bowl quarterback.
Oh, yeah. Me either.
Hani, what year was that? Okay, then let's see. I know who T&K Travels is. Okay, Blaine says, so what will people say for the next NFL season when they don't make the playoffs or they have the same outcome? Yeah, you're probably going to get the same talk either way. I mean, everyone now expects them to do it unless they lose. No, I cannot even pronounce his name. Godson? Is that the pronunciation? The wide receiver?
Ooh, sorry, say that again.
The free agent, Godson.
Godwin. Yeah, Godwin. Yeah.
Godwin. Unless they lose him, there's no reason they shouldn't repeat. In fact, I think they'll have a better regular season record.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. And they're talking a Brady extension. I saw a few reports out as well too, where the Bucs want to shore up an extension. And it'll. I mean, I'm assuming that the Bucs will franchise tag Godwin if they don't get a deal done. So I think it's pretty much going to be that same real roster.
Yeah. T&K says, to be honest, the MVP of the Super Bowl should be Todd Bowles.
Completely agree with that.
Beach Life. Truth to be told, there's no doubt that Tom Brady will go down as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. It's very difficult to really pick one quarterback to be the greatest. It is. There's a lot of things that go into being a quarterback in the NFL. I still think Brady will go down in history as the GOAT because you can't argue the numbers. I even have some other numbers here, which I found interesting because I thought Brady was more of a regular season played a great regular season, but his team carried him in the playoffs. That's the impression I was always getting, even as a Patriots fan. But I was looking back at Super Bowl, and that rating we had of 88.6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 out of his 10 Super Bowls, he excelled that rating. So he did play above average, and he only had one Super Bowl of 2 interceptions. The rest were all 1 or none. And even the playoffs, just to skim that, out of 18 playoffs, imagine that amount, Brandon, 18 playoffs. 9 of them he exceeded the quarterback rating that they determine is above average quarterback. So he does have the numbers to prove it, even though if I hadn't looked them up, I probably would have argued the other way.
Yeah, I think a lot of people probably would as well too. It's kind of interesting to think about. Out of the 10 Super Bowls, last year's Super Bowl was obviously a Tom Brady or Tampa Bay walk away. But other than that, I mean, almost every other Super Bowl could have went the other way. From the first one, against the Rams, that's a tight game. I mean, I believe every game was decided by one score besides last year's as well too. So you could easily argue that he should have more or he should have less, which is kind of fun to think about.
Right. If you're a Patriots fan, you're claiming that they should have had those 2 giant victories against the Giants, and if you're other teams, like you said, there are several games in there that you could argue the point that they should have lost it. So right, maybe everything comes out even in the end, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you're a Seattle fan, you're just saying, please hand the ball off to Marshawn Lynch and get out of there with a win.
Yeah, Honey says, yeah, that was 1994 as Chargers lost to the 49ers. They had Bobby Ross as their head coach. Let's see. T&K, Godwin, they were going to franchise tag him. Yeah, I was wondering if they would do that with him. With so many receivers and weapons, I wasn't sure, but he's a guy you really can't afford to lose, can you?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I mean, he's. I love Mike Evans, but I think Godwin, I think will potentially will have a better career than Mike Evans. Mike Evans is interesting with he all of a sudden just will develop drops once in a while and he just can't hold on to the ball, which is interesting.
He's one of those guys. I always try to get him on my fantasy teams because he's one of those guys that he always had the numbers, Evans. Yeah. And he must be a lot older than Godwin, is he? Any idea?
Yeah, it sounds like T&K has a good grip. I would say at least 4 or 5, but I'm not positive on that. So I would be interesting to hear about that. I know he Evans was in the league before Godwin, so I'm curious to know about that.
Welcome in Midlife Crazy. The professor says hello. Let's see. Blaine says, yeah, true. The defense will even be better. My money was on Tampa Bay next year again, and T&K travels. Okay, let's see. All right. Hani says January 29th, 1995, Super Bowl. What is that? 29? Oh, welcome in BDF, the BFD. Okay. All right. So it looks like we got the end of period number 2. Brandon, thank you for that discussion. And we move on to our second. Go ahead. You say something?
No. I was just going to say it looks like Evans is 3 years older than Godwin, according to T&K. So.
Okay, I missed that. Okay, the officials will call it. They started. Chiefs versus Tampa. Evans is 27. Godwin is 24. Okay, I thought he was more like 5 years too.
So 3 years.
I didn't realize Evans was that young.
Yeah, me either. I mean, I guess you know what? Thinking about it, he and Manziel were at Texas A&M together, so that kind of makes sense.
So their offense is relatively young. I mean, Fournette, I don't know if they'll even re-sign him. And of course, Brady, they're trying to sign till he's 60. So, okay. So we move on to period 3, which is what? Can the Lakers repeat? Now, even though Brandon is in the Northeast, his preference for football teams are Pittsburgh, and his preference for basketball is the Los Angeles Lakers. In fact, the thing that broke his heart the most is when they traded Lonzo, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, looking back, maybe it was a blessing in disguise, but yeah, I was a big Lonzo and still am a big Lonzo Ball fan for sure. But
so let's start with you, Brandon. Do you think the Lakers will repeat? And if not, or who else do you think will be in the mix?
Sure. I feel like I almost have to kind of justify my sports team. So some followers aren't thinking I'm just jumping on random bandwagons that seem to, have a good tradition. So let me just make sure everybody knows that my family's from, Pennsylvania. And so grew up a Steelers fan that way. And then always been a Kobe Bryant fan and a huge basketball fan. So found myself in love with Kobe. And so just became a Lakers fan that way. And, obviously rest in peace, Kobe and the Bryant family, as well as the others in the helicopter crash as well too. But to talk about the Lakers, that is an interesting question to say the least. If you were to ask me a couple months ago, I would say no doubt, absolutely. The Lakers will repeat. As long as there's no injury to AD or LeBron, that's a severe injury. Now I'm gonna still stick with my team and and say they'll find a way. And LeBron's one of those guys where you kind of like Tom Brady. You just can't really count him out. And so I'm going to say yes. However, there's some really, really good teams out there. Obviously, it looks like the Clippers have kind of figured it out. I think the Clippers will be tough. We kind of talked about the Utah Jazz, in the earlier segment. I think the Jazz are going to be a tough out as well too. I don't think they'll be an easy out by any means. And the Brooklyn Nets are looking scarier and scarier, even with Durant, out. So I think there's some great teams in the NBA. I think it'll be a fun playoffs. I can't see a team beating the Lakers 4 times in a 7-game series. And now let me backpedal a little bit. As long as Anthony Davis is healthy, he's got an Achilles issue going on right now, and so he's out till after the All-Star break. Or Achilles calf, they're saying. So, but if he's back and he's, even if he's 75, 80%, I still like the Lakers' chance to repeat.
Okay, I'd like to first of all just say welcome in Papa Mozo. He's tried to join in on the football conversation, but lost his way. So thank you for joining us, Papa Mozo. Okay. Yeah, 2 weeks ago, if you had asked me this question, just 2 weeks ago, I'm not going back a couple months like you, but I would have written the Lakers in no question as repeating. I just think they have the best depth. I think they have the best starters in the league. I mean, they got arguably 2 of the 3 best players in the NBA, would you say?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, LeBron hasn't really lost a step, or maybe lost a little bit of a step, but AD's been struggling this year though. Anthony Davis. So maybe you move him top 7 maybe, but yeah, I see where you're going with this. So I would agree with that.
Yeah, I still put AD up there. But 2 weeks ago when he hurt himself, now how old is AD? Do you know offhand?
26 maybe off the top of my head. I'm just taking a kind of a ballpark guess.
Okay, so he's still a young player. The thing is, I looked at it, since he's been injured, they've played mediocre. I think they're 5-5 in their last 10, I'm pretty sure. And they're playing very mediocre. So I'm looking now saying, I don't think that team can carry it without him. And I don't know if this guy will come back 100%. Like you're saying, even 75%, I don't think 75% will be enough to do it. So we're just talking, let's just stick to the West here. So I had L.A. winning it. Now I'm saying I don't even know if they're going to make it to the finals. Let's look at Utah, who's the fan favorite right now. I think they're a flash in the pan. What do you think about them? And they're going to fizzle at the end.
I could see them. I don't think they're good enough to get by the Lakers or the Clippers. So I see them making noise they'll win a playoff series, maybe 2, but I think they'll make a little bit of noise. I mean, I love their coach. Donovan Mitchell seems like he's taken another step. And, Rudy Gobert is great defensively. So I think they'll make a little noise. I don't know if they have enough to get by the Clippers or the Lakers. I think that's a potential collision course, teams that are on their way for a collision course.
No, and I agree with you 100% there. I think if they play the Denvers, the Portlands, the Phoenixes, those type of teams, they'll win that first round. But then they'll get knocked off by one of the 2 big L.A. teams.
Yeah.
And then, okay, so we're basically on the same page there. And then you get the Clippers basically facing the Lakers. In a normal year, I'd say the Lakers. I wouldn't even look twice. But I just think with Davis's injury and the fact that the Clippers seem to be playing together for a change. Boy, they had some great stats. I was looking yesterday. I think the top 3 guys, George, Kawhi, and there was another one in there, all are shooting over 40% from three-point land, 50% from the field. So you got some great numbers there and good consistency. So I do think this might be the Clippers' year of beating the Lakers taking those circumstances. What do you think with that?
I could see that. I think that's a coin flip, and Davis has to be healthy, as obviously as does LeBron. I think the way Paul George has been playing this year has been outstanding, and so Paul George, I think is kind of the difference maker. So if he continues kind of on where he's at now, I could see the Clippers winning. I think that's a 7-game series no matter what. And then obviously anything can happen in a 7-game in Game 7. So
you both have an LA team in the finals. I'm leaning a little bit towards the Clippers only because of what we discussed. And you're basically 50-50 with either team right now, right?
Yeah, I would say so. Now let me ask you this though: if the Lakers come back after the All-Star break and kind of look like they looked in the first few weeks of the season, does that change your opinion, or do you kind of stick with where you're at?
Where I'm more afraid of is not what they're looking like, but what they look like without Davis. And I think now he's kind of like Durant was. He's an injury waiting to happen. If they bring him back too soon, or he quirks, tweaks something in the wrong direction, I think he's going to be they're going to be in trouble. So. Yeah. That's basically where I stand. Let me do a quick welcome into Shannis Reviews. Thank you for joining us. And Paul Vines, thank you for coming in. We are discussing the NBA right now. Okay, so that's where we stand in the West. Now moving over to the East. Now Blaine is dying for on your list and my list. We both have Brooklyn as one of the teams in the finals there. Well, not in the finals, but in the playoffs. Let me see. I'm trying to find Blaine's thing. He had okay. I wish the Nets would finally win a championship. Well, this could be the year, Blaine. So I don't know if you want to start with the East, and then I'll jump in after you.
Yeah, we can do that. I think the East. The East is, both kind of conferences are not wide open, but I would say, the real 3 front runners would be the Nets, and that offensive firepower, especially if Durant comes back or when Durant comes back healthy. You're talking about Durant, Harden, and Kyrie. That's incredible. Me as a defensive minded kind of guy, it's can they get enough stops to win a playoff game, which everything kind of tightens up and it becomes more physical and it becomes a little tougher to score. So that'll be something to watch for. So the Nets, I would say the 76ers as well too. Doc's got them playing well. Embiid's, I would say Embiid's in the MVP conversation, or at least was a few weeks ago until he's kind of missed a few games. Simmons still really hasn't developed the jump shot, but he still gets, he still finds a way to score and distributes the ball. And then I can't count Milwaukee out, and they've been kind of struggling and limping along. But Giannis, if Giannis gets it going, I can see Milwaukee kind of making a little noise, or at least making it tough. And Milwaukee and the 76ers have kind of had a few series that have been hard nosed and tough. So that'll be a fun one to watch for sure.
So who do you see coming out of the East?
I'm gonna go with the Nets strictly on the fact that I think it's going to be tough to get stops against them. And they seem like they got it going on right now. Their record against top teams are I think they're like 10-1 in the past 11 against tough teams. So they've proven that they can win some close games, and I don't know if you can get enough stops against them to beat them. So I'm gonna say Lakers Nets in the NBA championship.
Lakers and Nets. Okay. It's funny. My Celtics team, which is one of the ones that they picked, might be in the mix, I think is gone. I don't even look at Milwaukee anymore. just don't think they have what it takes. There's something missing there. So I don't really, without even analyzing them, don't even look at them. I think it's going to come down to Philadelphia and Brooklyn. And I don't think Philadelphia has really found an answer yet. They just don't seem to put it together. Now, that being said, I would almost guarantee a Brooklyn victory or making it to the finals if they can get a stopper. I think before the deadline, they've got to get a defensive presence in there. Like you said, I mean, they're unbelievable on offense. And the big thing with them is if you compare it to like my Celtics, if Brown or Tatum is off or Walker, they're screwed. Whereas I've seen many games where one of the big three on Brooklyn has sat out or had a bad game, and the others just pick right up. How do you stop all three of them? I just don't think you can. But they've got to be able to play a little defense during the playoffs. So, yeah, I agree with you. So if they can get a defensive presence, someone out there, some guy hard-working defensive player, I do think it'll be a Nets final versus, and what I guess I'm leaning towards the Clippers. So I have the Nets versus the Clippers, and you have the Nets versus the Lakers, right?
Correct. Yep.
But we're both very extremely close on that. Let me see. So Blaine says, if Brooklyn can stay healthy, they can win it. Right now, that's doubtful as KD. Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with KD. He was out all last year, the last year and a half, and he seemed to come back strong, didn't he? But he seems to have these little nagging injuries that keep creeping up on him.
Yeah.
What's the latest? He was out for the virus for some games, that whole thing, but now he's out for something else, right?
Yeah, I'm not even sure what he's out with now. Was it hip? Maybe I thought I potentially saw, or hamstring maybe.
I was going with the hamstring, but maybe Blake could tell us.
Yeah. So yeah, I think you might be right. I think it might be the hamstring. And I thought I saw a report that he's probably out until the All-Star break as well too.
If they're smart, they'll rest him as much as they can. They can win 75% of the games without him, and then have them all ready to go for the playoffs.
Yeah, and he's one of those. I mean, everybody keeps talking about like chemistry and whatnot, where you have kind of Harden and Kyrie holding down the fort, and I think KD is one of those guys you could throw him out on any team, and he'll still find a way to make an impact and score 20 points on, or 20 or 30 points on literally 15 to 16 shots. I don't think chemistry really is a concern with him. That's for sure. Yeah.
So, yeah. And what do you think about the defensive aspect of it? Do you think they can pick someone up for that?
Yeah. I don't. Yeah. I mean, they have to. That bench is pretty short. And I mean, you have Harden. I saw that Harden was logging like 40 minutes a game for a little while, and somebody that everybody was talking about his conditioning and how he looked like he's packed a few pounds on. I mean, the fact that he's logging 40 minutes in an NBA game is pretty impressive. So I mean, there's got to be some names that I think in a few weeks players will be bought out, and we'll see. We'll kind of see what happens there. I think Oscar Robinson was just kind of acquired one way or another. I don't know. I just saw him a couple nights ago in a game. I don't know if he was on the roster and was hurt or whatnot. He's kind of a defensive-minded guy, so that could help a little bit. It'll be interesting with Steve Nash as a head coach and Mike D'Antoni as the assistant or the offensive guy, where those Phoenix Suns teams didn't really play a lick of defense and would kind of be an easy out in the playoffs. And then you have D'Antoni's Houston teams, kind of the same philosophy. So you have to get stopped sooner or later. So that'll be something to watch. So I think they'll get enough stops to where they'll be in the NBA Finals.
Okay. Blaine says it was a hammy. Okay, and we're getting close to the end of the third period here. So I just like to throw 5 names up there and just give you a quick opinion. These are ones that the thought to either be going to the Lakers, or Brooklyn or something in towards the end of the season here. So first one is Hassan Whiteside, a guy I used to love. How do you feel about him?
I like him as well too. I think there's been some locker room issues with him, and him he wants to get his kind of his shots and his points. I think that's a big sign. I think that's a good sign. Somebody as a Lakers fan, with Marc Gasol being kind of meh right now, or actually all season he's been very meh, and that's putting it very nicely. I would welcome Hassan Whiteside as a Lakers fan.
Okay, and I like him a lot myself. Trevor Ariza.
I love Trevor Ariza, former Laker. I think that's somebody that the Brooklyn Nets should be eyeing.
Yeah, these are names I think that they're both looking at. I'm not sure what they can get them for, and some of these have to be bought out and this and that. JJ Redick, I thought that was an interesting one.
Yeah, pure shooter. I think he'll help out, spacing the floor and knocking down some big shots.
The Lakers could use him. I don't know why, and I don't think they really showed interest. I don't think Brooklyn would be interested in someone like him. You don't need another player like that.
It's interesting. He lives in Brooklyn, which I've heard his name kind of tied to the Nets a little bit because he lives in Brooklyn.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
This is my favorite name out there, and I'm hoping, crossing my fingers, that the Celtics find a way to get him. Is Andre Drummond? Absolutely love the guy.
Yeah, I'm on the same boat with you. That'd be my number one. I think my number one guy potential buyout, and I think he might be everybody's number one guy.
Yeah. I was gonna say I don't really know any team in the NBA that wouldn't benefit from having him on their team. Yeah. I don't know what his contract situation is. If it's one of those, if he's going to be a free agent next year, or what the story is, but
I'm not sure either. I think potentially, and so that's a great addition no matter where he goes.
And the one they have is a top one for them to recruit, which I put him way down bottom of my list, is Blake Griffin.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think his time has kind of come and gone. Although I must say the evolution of his game has been fun to watch, where he's no longer really like somebody that plays fully above the rim. He still can get up and dunk the ball, on you a little bit, but more of a shooter, kind of space the floor, big guy, big man now. So, he's no longer part of Lob City where he was playing above the rim constantly.
He also lacks defensive skills, so wouldn't you say?
I would absolutely agree with that. Yeah, no doubt about it.
Blaine says JD is like 36. Would you take a chance on him? Maybe a 1-year contract, then he's done. I definitely think there's a team out there for Redick. I think you need that type of player, but I don't think Brooklyn would want him. And I don't know why. Well, I guess the Lakers could use another outside shooter.
Yeah. I think they might be in the big man market. I think, like I said, Gasol has been kind of bad, and with AD banged up, I think I could see Whiteside, Drummond, or Blake being more of a choice for them, just because they lack that depth.
Right. Okay. Well, that kind of concludes our third period. I'd like to ask people out there, we would entertain any suggestions or ideas. Please put them in the comments section under here on type of sports questions or things that we can talk about, and anything that you can comment on. We would greatly appreciate it. Like I said, this is our first time doing this, and we'd like to do more of them, but only if there's an audience for it. So I'd like to throw in one other thing. Our next live, this is with Nancy back again, is 2 p.m. on Wednesday, which is current travel news and Walt Disney foods that were popular the year you were born. And then a week from today, Nancy returns for our Sunday live. So Brandon, anything you'd like to say before we say goodbye to the chat?
No, I want to say I appreciate you having me on here. I know I can't make quite the difference that Nancy can make, but I did my best, and I want to say thank you so much. Also, I like your Baltimore Orioles hat too. I'll give you that.
Okay, and we both know that comes from local high schools too. But we'll use the bird.
Exactly.
maybe we'll get.
Orioles hat. That's what I
That's
think.
right. We'll get a different demographics by wearing it, right?
Yeah, that's it. That's right.
Okay, so last comments. Blaine says, I like this type of talk and discussion. That's excellent, Blaine. Hopefully we can do more of this. And Gabby says, fun live. Well, everyone, thank you very much for joining us, and we hope to see you on future chats. Have a great Sunday, and I guess goodbye for now. Have a good day, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, John.